Bonjour mon petit chiflet, Amber here, and who is she actually filming a wrap up at the beginning of a new month. Ooh, we love spring. Seasonal depression who? Hi, today is April 1st and it is not an April Fool's Day prank. I'm actually sitting down to film my March wrap up within a reasonable time. Who is she? Also, I'm very glad that you can't actually see my eye makeup because I tried a new palette today. And anywho, in March I read 4 books. Well, I finished 4 books. I had started one at the end of March. So let's talk about them. This has been a very sort of, I don't want to say up and down, more like a, I don't know, ebb and flow, I don't know, type of reading month for me, where, you know, we had 2 incredible reads, like 2 reads that, you know, are just, just there. You can hear my mom in the background. So first and foremost was a reread, which is the one I started in the end of February. I reread one of my favorite books of all time in preparation for its sequel, and that We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. Y'all know how I feel about that book. I listened to the audiobook. I had downloaded it ages ago because I knew I would want to brush up before I read We Free the Stars, especially because I've been waiting so long for We Free the Stars. Over a year. I read We Hunt the Flame the first time in I started it I think in April or May of 2019. It was supposed to come out in like January or February of 2020, and then it was pushed back to 2021, right? Yes. It was pushed back to, anyway. So that is a lot of time to have passed, so I needed to reacclimate myself with the world. And I love that book so much. We Hunt the Flame. It's told in 2 points of view. It follows Zafira and Nasir, who live in the kingdom of Arabiya. Zafira is this revered huntress, or I guess hunter, of her caliphate. People live because she killed, where she has been disguising herself as a boy and trekking into the dangerous and magical Ars to provide for her caliphate. Like I said, disguised as the hunter of Dimenhur, whereas Nasir is the Prince of Death, this feared assassin of the kingdom, who is also the crown prince. In book 1, both of them basically end up on Shar. Zafira is there with the hopes of finding this lost artifact, magical artifact, to restore magic to the kingdom and restore the kingdom to what it once was, whereas Nasir is there to find said artifact and also to kill Zafira. While there, we meet the rest of the Zumra, and it's just this really magical, one beautifully told adventure, and I'm not doing it any justice, but read it, thank me later. And I loved it just as much the second time. I will say I'm so glad that this was my second time reading the book, and that the first time I read it was the physical copy, because the narration was not it for me. It felt very whitewashed, if I'm being honest. Like, this is an Arab inspired world. These are Arab characters, and the narrators are white British people. There was a moment I was you know, on Twitter talking about this. I think there's a moment where the narrator for Zafira changed the pronunciation for, was it Altair? Like 3 different times within the text, and just the delivery of the certain lines just wasn't doing it for me. Nasir's iconic. If I told you my name, would you bow or would you flee? I know part of it is because that line is delivered during a Zafira chapter, so like it's not said in his voice, and also, but like the delivery of it's so like rushed and flat. I don't know. I didn't love the audiobook. So like I said, I'm very glad that I already know the story. I already read it. I already know where it's going. I just needed a brush up. Okay. I said the narrator has suddenly switched up the pronunciation of both Altair and Zumra. So that was something. Okay, so moving on. Obviously, after rereading We Hunt the Flame, I finally dove into We Free the Stars. This book is so large, and obviously this is the sequel, so I can't really tell you the plot, but I can show you the journey I took reading this book. I have filmed a full spoilery reading vlog of me going through this journey. I'll say again, that should be up at some point. I still haven't edited or uploaded my Sky Beyond the Storm vlog, so that's gonna go up, and then my We Free the Stars is gonna go up. I mean, I just recently posted the David Bad vlog, so I'm doing my best here. But oh my god, Hafsa and I need to chat. This book, I buddy read this with Brittany from Melon and Eclectic, and I'm so sorry, Brittany, for all of the screaming that I did while reading this book. I think there were several times where I was messaging her at like 3 a.m. my time. Sorry about that. This book went from 0 to 100 so fast. As you can see, it's a lot thicker than, well, I don't have book 1 next to me, but it's a lot thicker than book 1. It's almost like a sequel and then a finale wrapped up in one book. The first half of the book it could be its own book. It's just like more, I'll say what I appreciate about it. It's almost like it's a bit of a slower build up. But what I really appreciate about that is the fact that there's more time taken with the characters, learning more about the characters. In book 1, we were really just thrown into this quest and learning about our characters as we went. There was more like character craft work, I think, put into here, so you really feel all of their emotions, and there's so many emotions to be felt, and you really are able to see the growth of these characters. And when I tell you, these arcs, by these I mean Nasir's arc, Nasir Gamek deserves the whole world, the entirety of the world. I loved him in book 1, you know, broody assassin prince, sad boy TM. But the Nasir in this book is so complex and just beautiful, and I would die for Nasir. And honestly, when I said, look, if you're not bringing that Nasir Gamek level love to the table, you can keep it, you know? Altair, my baby, we went on a journey, and I wasn't ready for the roller coaster that the general would put me through. Just everybody, all the characters, I love them so much. I love this Zumra, I love this family, and I love how much they love each other. And this, when I tell you, this was such a satisfying conclusion. And like the last 2 chapters, Hafsa, you didn't need to do that to me. You didn't need to do that to me, but I'm glad that you did. I'm not really, I feel like I'm not communicating just how much I adore these books, and how much this is another one that I wish I could read for the first time all over again, experience it anew. I just love, they're just so complex, and like the way you know, we talk about like trauma and grief and anger and just like all of the there's just a scope of deep twisted emotions that deep rooted emotions, I don't know, that are taken on in this book and not glossed over. And just all of my children deserve the world. I miss them all so much, and I just, is it too soon to reread this book? Because I don't want to leave this world. I don't want to be done with this series, and just the fact that it's just a duology hurts me. And but I cannot wait for Tempest of Tea, Guns and Tea, which is what I'm still going to be calling it for a while, which is Hafsa's next series, duology. I don't know how many books it's going to be, but I'm so excited for it. I will read anything that she puts out. I love you. So let's move right along. The next is another sequel, Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I started this series. I'm late. I know. I'm late for a very important date. I started the series October of 2019. I only remember this because I read Shadow and Bone for the Hocus Pocus readathon that year, and I read it for the sole purpose of the fact that the show is coming out, and I love Ben Barnes. How many times do I have to say that, you know? I have loved Ben Barnes since I was like 16. Prince Caspian, you know the rundown. I know that he is going to kill this role as the Darkling. The full trailer just dropped the other day, and I'm like, Ben Barnes, oh my god. Whatever you want, sir. Whatever you want. Anywho, Shadow and Bone is a story of Alina Starkov? I think I made that up. Who is this orphaned girl she is I think a map maker in the second army of this fantastical Russian inspired world, kingdom of Ravka, where there are sort of like power wielding people called Grisha. I think there's like an attack or something. It's been over a year. It's been like 2 years almost since I read the first book. Please bear with me. I don't remember how. Okay, anyway, long story short, she finds out that she has this power that has kind of just been dormant in her until it basically forces itself out of her, and she is taken by the Darkling to the palace basically to help him destroy the Shadowfold, which is like kind of like, it's like separating two parts of the kingdom, and he's trying to claim, I don't remember. Anyway, this is the sequel to that. I don't know what I just said, but this is the sequel to that book. Book one, I was really neither here or there about the book. I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't in love with it. I didn't hate it. Like, this is such a polarizing series. Most people either love it or hate it. I didn't have any strong feelings for a 2012 book. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty standard. It's pretty good. If I had read it back then, I probably would have been in love with it. I do think I enjoyed this book more. I can't, obviously, you're gonna have to, if you haven't read it, you're gonna have to read it to understand the plot points. But Alina is just, you know, growing with her powers and, you know, trying to defeat. Is it a spoiler at this point if I say she's trying to defeat the Darkling? It's 2021. I think everyone knows he's the bad guy, right? Duh. We meet Nikolai in this book, and I will say that I get everyone's love for him. He's really the only character that I pay attention to, really, kind of. Like, because Alina, I know she's the main character, girl, I know, but she's still kind of a flat character to me. I don't know. I don't necessarily, I don't know what I feel about this, the journey she's on right now, the path she's on right now. I have mixed feelings about it, her, everything. Malian Oretsev can choke. He can choke. In book one, I remember saying that I didn't have any opinions. He's he's another very polarizing point of this series. You either love him or hate him. A lot of people hate him. Book one, I was like, I don't get it, he's not that bad. I see. He's one of those. I see that. Okay. And I don't know, I'm sure it's only going to get worse in book 3. I'm not a, what are they called, Dark Lena? I don't ship her with either of them, if I'm being honest. Al can choke, the Darkling, sir. I am a Ben Barnes fan, so, and if he was like, yeah, we're gonna change the water, I'm like, yeah we are. I'm simply gonna have to become a villain at this point, you know? If I had to ship her with anybody, at this point it would be Nikolai. I know that he ends up with someone else. Eventually I guess I'm gonna have to get to King of Scars. Is that what that book's called? I know the second one just came out yesterday or the day before, the final one of that duology and the whole Grisha verse. I got a lot of catching up to do. I've been talking about this book way too long. I don't really have any strong opinions, especially not when coming down from We Free the Stars, but I'm almost ready for the show. I think the show, I think this season's only really, I've heard, is really mainly covering book 1, so like technically I'm already ready, but just in case, I'm going to read Ruin and Rising this month, hopefully before April 25th, 24th, 25th. So we'll discuss soon. Alright, and the last book that I read in March was Undercover Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams, which is the second in the Bromance book club series. This one follows Braden Mack, who is the one who started the book club in the first place. This is his book club. Mack is a nightclub entrepreneur. He owns a bunch of nightclubs in downtown Nashville. I forgot when I jumped in that this series takes place in Nashville, and if you've been here for a while, you know Nashville has a very large place in my heart. So, and I was supposed to go to Nashville last year for the 3rd year in a row. Maybe not in a row. No, I think 2019 was like the first time in like 2 years that I hadn't been. Anyway, not important. He owns a bunch of nightclubs, loves romance novels, hence starting the Bromance book club, lives by the manuals, as they call them, and at the beginning of the book he is dumped by the girl he was about to ask to officially be his girlfriend. On the other side of that, we have Liv, who is Thea, Gavin's wife from book 1's sister. Thea is a pastry chef at this stupidly swanky restaurant in Nashville. She, in the beginning of the story, Mac basically gets her fired. Well, he gets her in trouble with her boss. Then when she catches her boss sexually harassing a hostess, a young hostess, that leads her to getting fired. Basically, the story follows what happens when Mac and Liv, I keep wanting to call her Thea, team up to take this guy down. You know, it's a romance, so it follows them falling in love. So it's so funny that when I read book 1, I had very conflicting thoughts about the book. When I read book 2, I have such a love-hate relationship with the series, it seems, because I have so many conflicting thoughts about this book too, and a handful of issues. And it's funny that a lot of the issues that I have with this book, I had with book 1 as well. I have notes, please hold. I don't know why this is the only book that I read last month that I thought to take notes about. Okay, my first note is the fact that I was very surprised that there was no trigger warning in this book for sexual harassment or like attempted assault, sexual assault, because like it's described as harassing, but it's really attempted assault. What Liv catches, what is this man's name? Royce. What she catches Royce trying to do. Yeah, I was surprised there was no trigger warning. I don't know. I read, you know, I've been working my way through all of Talia Hibbert's works, and particularly with the Brown sisters, I love that there's always like a trigger warning, content warning at the beginning of each book. So I'm like, it's definitely possible. And especially in this situation, you know, people argue, oh, trigger warnings are like spoilers. It's on the back of the book. Maybe they think that's enough. The fact that it says catches him harassing a young hostess, but I think it's deeper than that. When it happens in the book, it's like a thing, like, and then the conversation of harassment or sexual harassment, sexual abuse, domestic violence, whatever, continues throughout the book. So trigger warning for sexual harassment, attempted assault, gaslighting, conversations of domestic violence, because you know it's not in here. That being said, I did find it easier to get into this story than I did the first one because I already know the characters. We've already met the characters. My next point says a carryover issue from book 1. There are still continuity issues in this story. I remember mentioning that when I was going over book 1, like page 60. I wrote this down specifically. There's the line where, oh, Jessica. Okay, I read that line wrong. Anyway, I read the line wrong, so maybe I'll take that back. But there are an unfortunate amount of grammatical issues in this book, like more than like the normal. You can look past 1 or 2 spelling errors or grammatical errors. It's a lot. I'm just reading my list as I read the book. Every woman in this book is short and skinny. You know, barely 5 foot or barely weighs like the size of my leg. Or that's not a sentence. Like barely 100 pounds soaking wet. You know, that whole to do. And I seem to have, I guess I am spoiled by other books that I've been reading. We're going back to this. As a tall girl who is also not skinny, it's flavorless. Like, no offense to short, skinny girls, but when that's all you're reading, and that seems to be the default, I don't. Talia's really spoiled me. I mean, she's not the only one, obviously, but she's the main romance author I've been reading. And all of her girls are, most of them, I think that I've read, are like my height and up. So I love that for me. Liv is really annoying. I said kinda, but she's really annoying, which is another carryover because I found Thea annoying, and I guess it fits the mold if they're sisters. But in this story, I don't like how she handles a lot of the situations in this book, how she carries on in this book. She's very, I wrote it down as very white feministy, you know? A lot, I don't know. She also talks over the victims constantly, like it's her job. She is very victim blaming. Another trigger warning for victim blaming. She's very judgmental, and I mean, eventually it does get called out, but like, am I supposed to feel for this character? Because I really don't. She's also like reeks of I'm not like the other girls. Ma'am, I get it. And she makes a lot of like weirdly gendered comments and like feeds toxic masculinity, like all those be a man, oh whatever, you're so what I don't remember what she said to Mac, but she did like say be a man several times over stupid things like she manicures and books. Like, ma'am. And like it goes back to like her version of feminism, I guess, for all of her down with the patriarchy, I hate men, yada yada yada. I guess it's internalized misogyny. I get like what's going on, but it's just the delivery that's not doing it for me, you know? I think in book 1 my complaint was what was it? Their eyes crash, or their gazes crash. No, their eyes crash or something like that. In this book, the constant thing was Liv fake gagging every other page for some reason, and then the constant winking from Mac. For why? Yeah, I forgot that I seem to have forgotten that the books that they read in the book club also follow the exact plot or structure of the story itself, which I think makes it kind of redundant. I guess in this book, we only really get an excerpt from the book they're reading like once or twice, so it doesn't make it as redundant as in book one, but it's almost like it's more telling than showing, you know? Does that make sense? Okay, I only have 2 more notes and then I'll be done talking about this book. Speaking of the book club, I feel like an issue I had with this book, one, is that it lacked the Bromance book club. We get a few scenes with them, you know, when they're making plans or at the end, but like if we get the series The Bromance Book Club, where the whole premise is these dudes reading romance novels and using them as like guides to better their relationships and whatever, where are the dudes, you know? Where's this book club? And particularly, I wrote down, you would think that with the story revolving around his sister-in-law, Gavin would be involved a lot more, instead of like falling back on the, oh, he's a baseball player, so he's like an away game. Or at least Thea is barely in this story, or if she's in it, it's really for like a minute. She comes in, yells at Liv about something, and then leaves. I'm like, your sister could be in danger, and I know that Liv is very much, I don't want you involved, I don't want to be a burden on you, but like, that's your little sister, what's going on here? Last thing about another note about Liv, I get that the cranky sarcasm thing is a mask or a defense mechanism. Trust me, I get that. Trust me, I got it. But without truly exploring her actual feelings and thought processes about things, it still falls very flat to me. I feel like, okay, I didn't write this down, but I feel like Lyssa Kay Adams, the way she writes her books, I've only read 2, it's like she'll give so much more to the men in the book. Like, we get so much more of their actual feelings and like thoughts, and like explore the particular issues that they have, or like the traumas that they've gone through, and how they react to it, and how their brain works around it, kind of, you know? Whereas like the women, and maybe it's because Thea and Liv are so similar, their issues are rooted in the same thing, or come from the same thing, but it's like it's more, once again, telling instead of showing. We get told, oh, she has these issues because of her father or whatever, and then we're told, oh, she acts like this to protect herself. But it's almost like Liv and or Thea don't experience it themselves. That doesn't make sense when I say it out loud, but I don't feel anything for them. I'm just reading their stories, and I don't feel anything for them, whereas it's almost like I'm able to understand the guys more. Last note, another note I didn't write down. I don't know how I can't stop talking about this book before I mention the fact that, like in book 1, the spicy bits the sex scenes are lackluster. We could be honest about that, right? They're lackluster. I felt no chemistry between Mac and Liv at all. At least with the first book, I didn't really feel anything between, well, I can't say that. It was different. I didn't feel what I thought I would between Gavin and Thea, but they were a married couple working back together. For 2 people who are getting into that like fresh relationship, I felt nothing between them. Just a lot of snark, and then suddenly we're told they're attracted to each other, and I'm like, when did this happen? Why are they having sex? What's going on? Also, that was fast, my guy. Anywho, I don't know, I'm spoiled. I don't know. Am I going to continue the series? Yes. I already guessed. I mean, I know obviously there are 2 more, but like I was making a guess as I was reading because I couldn't remember who the main characters of that one was, and I guessed right. I'm interested to see, what is her name? It starts with an A, I think. Alexis and Noah. We are introduced obviously to both of them in this story. Noah's seems really interesting. I am really curious to see him as a main character. And at the 4th book, also Alexis owns a cat cafe, so I'm really interested to see that in the book. The 4th book follows the Russian, or Vlad, which I don't know, I'm not as invested in his character as other people seem to be. I think he is thrown as like cheap comedic relief and is like a stereotype, but I don't know, what do I know? So anyway, let me stop talking. This is already almost 40 minutes probably. Those are the books I read in March. It's the 1st of April, and speaking of being spoiled, the first book I intend to read this month is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I'm so excited, but I don't want this series to be done, but I'm so excited. And then probably Roman and Rising. So thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite read of March was. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below so you can follow me and I'll follow you back. And I'll see you very soon. Bye!